Good evening, and thank you for joining us in this memorial event to remember our superintendent, Dr. Scott Helton, a brilliant man with a heart of gold, boundless energy, and a relentless drive for excellence. I have the honor of addressing you first tonight and share some thoughts and memories of Dr. Helton, my colleague and dearest friend. I first met Scott Helton during his interview for the principalship at Addison Trail High School. I had been invited to sit on the interview team, and when Scott bounded into the room to interview with that energy and passion that defined his leadership, we knew we had found our principal. I feel like I was just handed the keys to a brand new car, he said to us. And with that same excitement and care, he took the helm. Scott was a gifted instructional leader. He moved quickly to implement several new programs, interventions, and supports. Scott knew the student data so thoroughly he could tell you exactly which students needed the most help and exactly how many points they needed to reach a score that would get them into college. He had a passion for ensuring that all students had access to the most rigorous curriculum and the support they needed to stay there and be successful. Scott worked to build trust and connect all of our students and parents, regardless of language or cultural background. He pushed us to be way out of the box and find new ways to champion our kids and their families. As a principal, Scott treated the students as if they were his own. He visited their homes and held meetings out in the community at churches and community centers. He built genuine and authentic relationships with our families. He sought to understand their struggles and share in their victories. The families knew he was their advocate. In 2012, Scott was promoted to the superintendency. In this new role, he continued his relentless pursuit of more rigorous experiences for students, including advanced placement, dual credit opportunities, workplace experiences, anything that would allow students to overcome the barriers to post-secondary success. He was a respected leader at the county and the state level. He worked with legislators to advocate for more equal opportunities for all of our students. Scott was a connector. He knew everyone and everyone knew him. As I reflected on my time with him over the past 20 years, my head and my heart overflowed with memories of our day-to-day interactions. You see, I spoke with Scott every day, several times. We strategized, shared successes, problem solved, lamented on occasion. Some days I had to talk him off the ledge, but almost every day we laughed together. Those closest to Scott knew that he teased those he cared for the most. Our team members knew that if any of us made a mistake, we would never live it down, and no one told a story better than Scott. But the beautiful thing about Scott Helton was while he could dish it out, so to speak, he could also take it. We teased him a lot, and he never took himself too seriously. Scott was an open book. Whether it was his old professional wrestling videos or his recent hobby of Latin dancing, his thorough food critic level analysis of his favorite restaurants before making a lunch decision, or his extensive knowledge of movie quotes, we could get him going anytime. He was a lot of fun and used his gifts, his quick wit, and brilliant sense of humor to bring levity to hard situations and make those around him feel at ease. I loved working in Scott's inner circle because it was never boring. My days usually started with one of the following quotes. Hey, I got an idea. Or wait till you hear this. Or on some not so good days, things like, guess what we forgot about? Or we got a problem. I can honestly say it was never the same day twice. Scott generated ideas at a pace that few could follow. He had the tendency to dream big. And when he had an idea, our job was to make it happen. Or on occasion, try to talk him out of it, which wasn't always easy. Either way, we'd have a lot of laughs along the way. As I reflected on his professional journey in District 88 and the most triumphant moments we witnessed under his leadership, I have to say that many of them centered around his passion to provide more rigorous opportunities for all of our students and our journey to be more culturally responsive in that work. You see, for a white monolingual male who never traveled out of the country, to my knowledge, to take the helm of one of the most diverse school districts in the state of Illinois was quite an undertaking. But this work was natural for him. Scott Helton loved kids and had a heart for those that were underprivileged or had suffered hardships. He specialized in valuing each student and his or her unique background. He was famous for telling their stories. He bragged about the students that were the first in their family to go to college, how many received scholarships, how many AP credits they earned, how many went off to the Ivy League, how many were state champion athletes, musicians, and the challenges they overcame to get there. When Scott saw a barrier, he pushed to find a way to remove it. Scott worked with community partners to make stronger connections with our families. I remember seeing him in our first Latino parent meetings, not understanding one word that was going on, but vulnerable and confident enough to leave the meeting in the hands of the community leaders the parents trusted. I remember how proud he was when on the first Saturday of our English classes for the parents, a frigid January morning, over 300 parents showed up, the beginning of a beautiful bridge that Scott built with the Latino community. One of his favorite stories, and one that symbolized his leadership character, was the time when our students were struggling to process their feelings regarding some of the changes to the immigration policies, and they wanted to walk out of school. Scott met with them and asked them, "Where do you want to go? Who do you want to talk to? We'll bring them here. Anyone you want." Scott worked with us to organize an in-school educational forum in less than 48 hours with media coverage, a panel of speakers, and a full instructional program for over 700 students to keep them in school and safe. Scott talked to students regularly, and they knew he was a safe person they can trust. He made courageous decisions as a leader. He engaged in hard discussions and went to the places few leaders would go. And what made him so special was his drive to encourage others to do the same. When we committed as a district to go further in equity work, before we could even train our whole staff, Scott invited all of our associated elementary districts to participate with us, without giving me any warning. "Don't worry, Barbanenta," he said. "We got this. It's only 1,000 people. The AT auditorium fits 1,100. We're good." What could I say, right? Scott believed if we found something special, we should share it with others. And this work was close to his heart. Scott became an equity champion across the region, the state, and the nation. He was a fierce advocate for students who needed us most, and he paved the way for other leaders to take the same path. This past year brought tremendous challenges to our district due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Scott Helton was a trauma-informed, supportive leader during this crisis, not afraid to make hard decisions for the health and safety of his students and staff. He was unwavering in his commitment to make sure our students and families had food and necessities. "We have twin traumas," he would say, referring to the virus as the backdrop for the civil unrest that continues to challenge us. He participated in our virtual listening circles to help staff and students process their confusion, hurt, and anger, and he encouraged other leaders to do the same. In every decision, he considered the consequences through the eyes of our most challenged students and families. He was the leader we all needed him to be during this crisis. Scott's impact on the educational community was far-reaching, and his accomplishments were great, but it was without a doubt that his greatest accomplishment was being a loving and dedicated father to Scott Jr., Joe, and Tom. I had the privilege of accompanying their lives daily through their dad's updates, and they were his greatest love, his pride, and his joy. Boys, thank you for sharing your dad with us. As we begin our program, we thank the Addison and Villa Park Fire and Police for providing an honor guard, once again symbolizing the strong and supportive community partnerships that Scott helped to build. Now please join us in the national anthem performed by our District 88 students.
DJ, attention! Forward, march. Detail, vote. Right face. Prepare coat to coat. Ready? Coat. Read, coat. Detail, face. Present, on. On. Left face. Forward. March. Detail. Call. Hit. Spin.
I first got to know Scott when I joined the school board in 2004. What always impressed me about Scott was his willingness to do whatever was necessary to encourage student involvement and achievement. Whether it was the annual wager between himself and Dr. Kraus for the Crosstown Classic football game, in which the principal of the school that did not win agreed to sit in a dunk tank at the opposing school, or dyeing his hair pink for the Go Pink or Go Home breast cancer fundraiser, or the infamous Oompa Loompa costume for the Willy Wonka musical to help increase student ticket sales. When the board interviewed Scott for the superintendent position, I was blown away by his enthusiasm, his knowledge about student curriculum and instruction, and the many ways he planned to foster community involvement. Scott had a heart for every student. He wanted to make sure that every student was stretched through their education to maximize the potential to be successful in their life after high school. He was constantly analyzing how things were going to see if he could do it better. There were very few days over the last 8 years that we didn't talk. My husband often teased me that I talked to Scott more than I did him. Over the years, we have had many challenges, some sad and some happy. I often joke that he could write a book for other superintendents on how to handle those tough situations. He never let those difficulties get him down. He would develop a solution and carry it out. If it didn't work, he would accept responsibility and try something else. He was always a team player, working closely with the board, administration, and staff to come up with solutions to difficult problems. I was always amazed how he seemed to know everyone. At football games or plays or concerts, he could name every student or staff member and share something that he personally knew about them. Even though you might consider Scott to be a workaholic, it was clear that Scott's 3 sons, Scott Jr., Joe, and Tommy, were his pride and joy. He would go to any length to support them and to see them wrestle, including driving all night or a rare flight, which really showed his dedication since he didn't like to fly. In order to make sure our students had every advantage, Scott formed many partnerships in the community. He worked with the Addison Public Library and local businesses in Villa Park and Addison to support students in the District 88 Transition Program, which helps individuals ages 18 to 21 who have disabilities learn life skills, obtain job training in the community setting, and transition to life after District 88. Scott developed partnerships with intergovernmental agencies for school safety events and initiatives, which received a Those Who Excel Award of Excellence from the Illinois State Board of Education in 2019 for this work. He collaborated with the local police departments to provide school resource officers in the Friday Night Connect program. Scott had one of those personalities that was larger than life, and you would find him everywhere, including community nights, crosstown football games, where we began the tradition of introducing community leaders, legislators, and first responders, the Addison Medina Shriners Parade, Rock and Reels, the Villa Park 100th Anniversary Celebration, and the Villa Park Showcase Celebrate 8 and 28. Scott made sure to encourage all administrators to get involved in the community as well, including the Addison Workforce Development Committee, which ended up partnering with the College of DuPage to develop an apprenticeship program to help students and local employers. Another unique program was the Addison Sister Cities Committee with the Addison Sister City in Trajano, Italy. This was a nonprofit organization that strives to create and strengthen cultural exchanges between Addison and Trajano. Since 2003, Addison Trail has had about 50 students participate in the program. Scott was serving as president of the Villa Park Rotary Club when he passed away. The Villa Park Rotary Club has supported our schools through providing scholarships, sponsoring the Interact Club, as well as students through the Rotary Youth Exchange Program. The Addison Resources Connect, which was formerly known as the Addison Business Education Partnership Council, has connected Addison youth and families with community resources that support well-being and growth. He was a proud supporter of our Chambers of Commerce in both Addison and Villa Park, who have provided scholarships for our students, as well as supported student activities through donations. Another program was the Addison Mentor Program, where adults in the community mentor students at Indian Trail Junior High School in District 4 and at Addison Trail High School. He developed partnerships with institutions of higher education, including College of DuPage and Elmhurst University, to name two, to provide opportunities for our students to earn college credit while in high school. Scott also had an impact around DuPage County, the state, and around the world. Over the years, we have hosted students from other high schools for student-led forums on relevant issues like the heroin crisis. In addition, we have had educators from other countries, including Canada and China, visit our schools to learn about our programs. As further evidence of his impact, we have received many proclamations and letters of condolences from local governments and leaders, whom I would like to thank this evening. The Village of Addison, the Village of Lombard, the Village of Villa Park, DuPage Regional Office of Education Regional Superintendent Dr. Darlene Rossetti, State Representatives Deb Conroy, Tara Costa Howard, Kathleen Willis, and Deanne Mazaki, and former State Representative Diane Pappas. I would like to note that 4 of them are District 88 alums. U.S. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy and U.S. Senator Richard Dick Durbin. Also a fitting tribute for a man who has been an advocate for education at every level of government. A flag will be flown over the United States Capitol in Scott's honor. When a person dies, the mark of the individual left on the world represents the individual's legacy. It is about the richness of their lives, including what that person accomplished and the impact he has had on people around him. This evening, you will hear many stories about Scott and his accomplishments and how he has touched each of our lives. But his legacy will live on as we keep his memory alive by putting students first. It will be multiplied by the students in District 88 as they go off into the world to make their mark and to make the world a better place. Scott taught us not to accept the ordinary, when we can make the extraordinary happen.
Good afternoon. Scott Helton. I accept Dan Krause's ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. After I complete my challenge, I would like to extend the challenge to our district, feeder district superintendents, John Langton in District 4, Tony Palmisano in District 45, and John Carell in District 48, along with our district office administrative team, including Danny Brink, Jean Barbonente, Vanessa Duffin, Bob Fleming, Ed Hoster, and Aaron Lenahan. You have 24 hours to complete this challenge.
this is a commemoration of Dr. Scott Helton, District Superintendent, who very recently passed. We're saddened to hear of the passing of such a passionate leader and a true champion for equity in education. Dr. Helton was the superintendent of District 88. He was a teacher at Addison Trail in Addison for 11 years and then served as superintendent for the past 8. He was beloved, a larger-than-life figure in the school community, a man who always went the extra mile for his students. I saw just on social media an outpouring of, real, genuine love and respect for somebody who served the community and education in the way that Dr. Helton did, and it was sad to see, but certainly affirming of how much love he had in the community and how much he did for kids. Our condolences go out to all his friends, his colleagues, students, family, and 3 sons, Scott Jr., Joe, and Tommy.
I met Scott Helton during the 2000-2001 school year when we were both administrators in Consolidated High School District 230. He was an assistant principal at Sandburg High School, and I was division head for math and applied technology at Andrew High School. We worked and laughed together at leadership meetings, often sharing stories about growing up in the south suburbs. It's also where we had our first experience with small learning communities grants, after Sandburg and Andrew had been awarded funds at that time to help design schools that personalized learning environments and help large schools feel small. After Scott left to become principal at Addison Trail in 2001, it was exciting to cross paths again when the assistant principal position became available at AT, and I was fortunate enough to join the team at Addison Trail District 88 in 2002. I still remember the very first day walking into Addison Trail in the summer because it was July and it was hot. And I asked him, I said, hey, what's wrong with the air conditioning? He said, we don't have any air conditioning. And that was prior to building the future and where we are today. It's also the first summer of learning about the Addison 4th of July parades and the requirements of having Bucky the Blazer participate as a mascot. And at that point, we didn't have someone to dress up that way. So of course, Scott thought, what the best way to introduce a new assistant principal to the community, but to have myself dress up as Bucky the Blazer. But it was an outstanding day, a day that we never forgot. But it was also the start of when we began quite a bit of the small learning communities planning during that time and writing planning grants and implementation grants so that the house system that exists today began. I was there for only 3 short years, working with Scott directly, and transitioned here to Willowbrook to serve as assistant principal for 2 years and now the principal. But it was every aspect of Scott's passion was to be sure that every single student, staff, and community member felt that they were known and had a place. It was this commitment that was contagious for everyone around him. I believe there was not a person who met Scott who didn't immediately feel as though he had known them for years. This was even more obvious when we served together as principals and would attend West Suburban Conference meetings, DuPage ROE meetings, local, state, and national conferences. Scott knew everyone. He not only engaged the room, but shared a relentless and tireless dedication to challenging the status quo and making sure students had the best opportunities to succeed. In the end, he made sure the relationships he developed were authentic and also helped to support those around him, most importantly, the students. As Scott transitioned to the superintendent role, there was not a day that went by we would not talk about anything and everything happening at Willowbrook, in the district, and beyond. Some of those conversations also included each of us adding our own level of emphasis when we thought we were right. In the end, we often joked that we could fight like brothers, but don't mess with us together. We could compete in athletics, but never about learning. Some of the most fun we had recently was facilitating the DuPage High School Principal Collaborative and working with schools across the area. There was never an idea a student or staff member brought forward that didn't end up with us hosting a countywide event for students and schools, much like we did regarding substance abuse, school safety, and promoting culturally responsive teaching practices and equity. It was always Scott's love for the students, the staff, and our community that was obvious in all that he did. This love was the same he shared with all of us because he had the same love for his own boys. Scott, Joe, and Tom shared their dad with us while all of us and each of our own children got to see them grow up. My own son still tells stories about being at school and hanging with Scott and his sons. Finding ways to capture more than 20 years in a few minutes has been difficult. But it was in a few minutes each day that Scott took to share his day with us, bring a laugh, tell a story, share an idea, and support us. His legacy, like his life, is one that can be felt all around us. There was not a person who did not know Scott Helton, his passion, and his commitment. And we're all better because of that.
As we all know and will continue to learn, Scott had an incredible impact on the lives of our students, parents, community members, and staff. His legacy will live on in District 88 long after we are all gone. He was a leader, motivator, friend, boss, and mentor to me, as well as countless others, both who are a part of District 88 and well beyond our borders. Scott's legacy can be seen throughout District 88, from tearing down the walls and barriers so that all students can access a rigorous AP curriculum, to making sure every student was taken on a college tour. During the pandemic, he made sure our families were being fed and had all the basic needs to stay well. His impacts are too numerous to mention here today. However, one thing he focused on was ensuring all students were engaged in their high school experience in some way, shape, or form. Whether their engagement be through academics, athletics, or activities, all aspects of their experience was important to Scott because they were all an important part of his life. They also helped shape him into the successful person he was. We all heard about his experiences playing football and wrestling in high school at Bloom, as well as at his beloved alma mater, North Park University. But he equally spoke about his experiences working as a student and being involved in his church, both as a child as well as an adult. Scott truly talked the talk and walked the walk. He also made sure that the people on his team also truly believed that all of these experiences were important for all of his students to be successful. Scott had a place in his incredibly huge heart for everyone. However, he had a special place for those kids who had a more challenging life and had more obstacles in their way. His goal, which was the goal of everyone on his team, was to make sure every student could achieve their dream. I am here today to share with you, I am one of those kids. You may not know this, but Scott and I grew up in the same Chicago Heights town, not too far from each other. I was a few years younger, so our paths did not cross. I was that kid who grew up in a low-income neighborhood with working parents who did not go to college. And my mom even dropped out of high school as a teenager to have me. I will not forget the first time I met Scott. I was assigned by St. Xavier University to student teach at Amos Alonzo Stagg for biology, and my cooperating teacher was none other than Scott Helton. Two Chicago Heights Bloom High School kids, both biology teachers. I knew it would be a great experience, and it truly was. When we have some time, I would love to share some of those wild experiences I had as his first student teacher. Scott knew that I grew up in a poor part of town and that I was a college student going into my profession with two parents who didn't go to college. I was one of those first generation kids. Yeah, I think that helped him put his arm around me and guide me through an incredible experience. Even at that point of his career, he was passionate about student success, and he taught me to reflect on my teaching when students did not do well. He would remind me to think about the challenges each student faces and reflect on how I could reach all of the students in my class. He would then speak about each student one by one, telling me what their challenges are outside of school. He would share with me information about their family, their health, issues they may have with parents, or challenges they may be experiencing in all aspects of their lives. He knew every student and the help they needed to be successful. This moment was a tipping point in my development as an educator, and I knew I wanted to be just like Scott and know my students as he did. His interest in people was genuine, just like it was with me and all of the students in his classroom, and what I believe really fueled him. He found out I wanted to coach softball and was passionate for the sport, so he made sure I could help coach at Stagg during my student teaching, an experience that I thank him for today. He also knew I wanted to go and get my master's degree and move into administration, and he began bringing in information on the program he was in, as well as other university programs. It didn't matter I was a student teaching and didn't even have my certification yet as a teacher. He was already helping me reach my next goal. Over the years, we continue to stay in contact. No matter what school I worked at, there was always someone who knew Scott. I mean, didn't just know of him, but was truly a friend and teammate of his. I learned that his network of people was far-reaching, even in the mid-90s. Over my early career, Scott was someone I could reach out to on occasion and speak with about entering administration and education, and he supported me in every endeavor I had. His advice and support over the years was invaluable to me. I never thought that our paths would cross in a way that I would come to work for him, but it did, and I am thankful I had the opportunity to work with him and learn from him over the past 14 years. He was my mentor, friend, and a person who truly believed in me when I was second-guessing myself. I will always hold a high friendship and support close to me, and I'm incredibly saddened that he has been taken from us so soon. Just like all of you, I still have so much I want to thank him for. I have so much I still want to say. I sometimes still look at my phone when it rings and think it might be him. Unfortunately, that call is not coming and going to have to wait. But I do believe that someday I will have the opportunity to thank him for all that he's done for me and the tens of thousands of people he's had an impact on over his life. Scott will always be someone very important to me and my family, and has helped to provide me with this opportunity here today to be principal at Addison Trail, sitting at the exact same desk that he sat in as principal at Addison Trail for many years. Thank you for all that you've done, Scott. Thank you for your guidance and support, and I can't wait to see you one day, my friend.
My absolute condolences to the Helton family, especially Scott, Joe, and Tommy. You should know how absolutely your father treasured and adored you. He gave 100% to District 88. However, know that he did it all for you. Please know that you are his legacy. I am humbled and honored to speak on behalf of the Teachers Union here in District 88 as both a colleague and friend of Scott Helton's. My first interactions with Scott was when he was a new principal, and I was a new union leader. I initially had very little interaction with Scott as a teacher because I was at Willowbrook and he was at Addison Trail. Nonetheless, we both soon learned what the other was all about. Scott loved his staff and students at Addison Trail, and though he knew the time was right to become superintendent, it also meant leaving an impactful and cherished position in the district to do something that would become even greater. Scott dancing at an assembly or shaving his head for charity, and even being submerged in a dunk tank all showed his passion for his school. He now saw an opportunity to underscore that same compassion for an entire district. What I'm about to say, I mean with the utmost respect, for Scott was a really good principal. However, he became a great leader as a superintendent. His intent always was to do what was right for kids and his staff, even if that was not always a popular opinion. Dr. Scott Helton, like all of us, did not sign up to lead a district in the most deadly and horrific pandemic in a generation. But know this, Scott's leadership transcended outside of District 88. He tried to help other districts understand that students and staff needed to be protected when both the state and the federal governments began to fall silent and or even began to contrast what health organizations desperately advocated. Scott became a champion, not only for District 88, but for the county and frankly the state of Illinois. With that said, Scott's goals with how he wanted to bridge a collaboration with the unions of his district was a model for all districts. As not only the president of District 88's Teachers Union, but also the legal defense chairperson for the West Suburban Teachers Union, Local 571, I see the devastating effects of poor leadership thrust upon rank and file in other districts. Scott and his team refused to fall victim to the pressures that could jeopardize the lives of his colleagues and his students. To show who Scott was, he believed that food was a way to bring people together. It was a literal breaking of bread. So Scott and I, nearly every month for over 10 years, went to lunch to discuss the district. I'm going to miss those lunches, where they continued to build bridges, not walls, between his administrators and our teachers. I appreciated Scott's humor, I appreciated Scott's humility, and I respected Scott the man. He always wanted to do what was right. He always wanted to better his students' lives and his staff's. However, his legacy will not go in vain. He mentored Dr. Jean Barbonente and so many of his staff members to care for students and for each other. He leaves an immense emptiness in this district, yet he left the groundwork for us all to endure and to grow. Dr. Chaim Janat, educator and psychologist, once stated, "If we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming." That was Scott. I wanted the opportunity to raise a glass to honor Dr. Scott Helton at his retirement at the end of the 21-22 school year. That will not happen. However, in honor of a father, an educator, and a very good man, may Dr. Scott Helton's memory be a blessing.
When I was asked to share a few words about my memories and experiences with Dr. Helton, I was wondering, where do I even start with such a wonderful man? And there's so much to talk about. He's a smart professional, he has great leadership skills, he was such an advocate for every student, he was a great collaborator with the local village and the surrounding communities, and he was just so much. I wanted to really focus in on something specific. So I talked to my daughters, who are all graduates or soon to be graduates of Addison Trail, and asked them, what's a key attribute of Dr. Helton that you remember, or that really differentiates him and makes him special and a unique person in this world? And all three of them came to the same conclusion, that his natural ability to be just such a wonderful, genuine person that made everybody feel comfortable and welcome, and as though you were almost his best friend. It was a unique quality, and he was just wonderful to work with on a regular basis. And whether you knew him by Scott Helton or the more formal Dr. Helton, and then my favorite, which many students referred to him as Scotty, because he was so lovable, he was just a wonderful person to be around. And he really shared an interest in every single student that walked through the halls, and he himself walked through the halls and greeted many students and talked to them. He knew just about everybody by name. He was interested in their academics and in their personal life and in their overall success as an individual. So he was really a wonderful guy, and not only did he walk around the schools, but he got to just about every activity and event that the school offered. He went to the plays, the musicals, the music productions, every sporting event, breakfast meetings, award ceremonies, and truthfully, I don't know how he did it. There was just so much every single day. I think he might have found a couple body doubles to fill in to get that all done, but he somehow managed to pull it off. So because he was this kind of person, he really instilled a wonderful culture throughout the entire school. And it was starting with the students and the staff and extending out to the parents and the community members as well, just by being in his presence and creating this environment where everybody trusted each other. Everybody was supporting each other and helping each other to achieve the highest standards, which is something that he believed in, ATHS. And he was a great role model for that, where he really did have high standards for himself, and I would say he not only met them but exceeded them as the person that he was. And who can forget the wonderful times and the funny times when he was participating in a flash mob or did a debut performance at one of the theater productions. Those were fun times, and some of my fond memory of him is just his genuine beautiful smile when he greeted you and that twinkle in his eye. And he would always talk to people and greet them and show a genuine interest in them and catching up with what was going on in their lives, and just a friendly overall person. So luckily he was promoted from principal to superintendent, and so he could spread the same culture beyond the walls of AT and into Willowbrook and the surrounding community. So we were all very, very lucky to know him and to learn from him and to be able to witness such a wonderful person. And although he's gone, his legacy can still live on through all of us. We can learn from all the wonderful things, the person he was, welcoming others, showing an interest, and really being there for everybody. And I think we can all do that to honor him as a whole. So you know that he's looking down on us, smiling his proud little smile and that twinkle in his eye. And I just want to say, thanks, Scotty.
We know Dr. Helton from the English class at the high school.
For adults.
It was the English class for adults. He was like a mentor for us. He was our friend. He visited our home several times because the relationship that born between him and my family. He loved the Mexican food. And every time we go out to eat or just to have fun, he come with different ideas to how help the students, and not only the students, their parents. So I think Edison will miss him a lot for a long time, and we want to thank his children for let us have Dr. Helton with us for a long time. I think he spent a longer time with us. And it was sometimes the family time. So we need to say thank you to them.
And we are grateful for the opportunity to know him. And I would like to share to show some photos with my children and Dr. Helton. He was a great man, so thank you, Dr. Helton, for all your service for the community.
During my time at AT, Dr. Helton was our principal. Throughout the years, he became a family friend. My family and I were very saddened to hear of his passing because we know firsthand the magnitude of the impact he had on his students, their parents, and the district as a whole. For my family specifically, my parents did not attend high school and primarily speak Spanish, so they were unfamiliar with the school structure. Dr. Helton made significant efforts to ensure that my parents were aware of the resources available to them. He frequently checked in on them to make sure that our needs were being met, and this kind of care and attention helped to alleviate financial stressors for our family, and we are very grateful for his work. He strived to make opportunities available to my parents to have their concerns addressed. He encouraged them to be a part of parent organizations such as Padres Latinos en Acción. He connected my parents to community liaisons and other Spanish-speaking parents. He also encouraged them to attend school-sponsored events. I think he greatly valued their involvement in and wanted them to feel like they were a part of the AT community. Our relationship further strengthened when we learned that he liked to dine at the two restaurants where my mom, my aunt, and I worked at. We learned that he appreciated our Latino culture, and he was invited to some of our family cookouts and my sister's quinceañera, where he had the opportunity to enjoy some of our traditional Mexican foods. Even though he knew that my family spoke very little English, he did not shy away from trying to engage them in conversation. He had such charisma, and his laughter and his smile were contagious. I think he really valued diversity in the community. Even after I moved away for college and graduate school, every time he saw my parents, he would ask how I was doing. And he really was a lifelong educator and an inspiration to us all. He had a tremendous impact on my education, and my academic accomplishments are a result of Dr. Helton and the team that he created at AT. So I know firsthand the dedication and commitment he had in ensuring his students' success. And for all of these reasons and many more, I am confident that his legacy will live on through the lives of the students he's touched, including mine. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, Dr. Helton.
Even though Dr. Helton and I were not family, he treated me like I was. I had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Helton at a young age because his son Tommy and I were a part of the same wrestling program growing up. We developed a close bond, almost like brothers, because of the countless road trips that we had gone on together. We fortunately were able to create a lot of memories along the way. Dr. Helton, as you know it, liked to tell stories. He liked to share the story of when he first met me. He recalls looking up at the stands at a young boy who had just got done wrestling. He goes on to say how I took out my lunch, which consisted of a small can of tuna and a few saltine crackers. He laughed every time he told that story. This was just one of many stories that he would share, but I'm sure he has stories not only about me, but about each and every single one of you. Dr. Helton was always supportive of me, as well as all the students of District 88. He was there when I won my Illinois State Wrestling Championship in Champaign my senior year. It was such a special moment for me, and I will forever be grateful for all of his support. Dr. Helton and I had grown closer over the years, and he had become a mentor to me. I had learned a lot of lessons from him, many of which I hold dear and close to my heart. The lessons that he had taught me were honesty, compassion, and dedication to the things that I love. But for me, the most important lesson that he taught me was to be kind to others and stick up for those in need. As a superintendent, he demonstrated all these amazing qualities to all the students at both schools. To him, this position was not about the power or the title, but a way that he can increase the learning experience to all the students and give them the best education and opportunity for them to succeed in life. This was the kind of person that he was. He cared so much about the success of his students. His leadership was also unmatched by any other. He was not the type of leader that would give orders. He also did not just come in to do the bare minimum. He led by example by showing others. He had dedicated his life to making a positive change in people's lives for the better. My life was one of them. I feel that he had made me a better person and helped me to get me where I am today. Dr. Helton is going to be dearly missed by everyone, but most importantly to remember is who he was, a great man that had left a great impact on all of us.
I just wanted to take a few moments to talk about a man who has had a monumental impact on my life. Dr. Scott Helton. Dr. Helton was a man of integrity, empathy, and courage. Dr. Helton was a leader not only in District 88, but a leader on the local, regional, state, and national stage. He was a huge supporter of equity, as well as a champion for all students. Dr. Helton believed that all students should have a chance at education. Dr. Helton is a true agent of change. His impact and legacy will remain. Personally, I had an amazing opportunity to work closely with him for almost 3 years. He has broadened my horizons and given me numerous opportunities. While working with him, he shared numerous stories with me. These stories I will cherish forever. Dr. Helton made every student he came in contact with feel the warmth he so radiated. Many students in public education around the country do not get the chance to say they worked with their superintendent. But in District 88, Dr. Helton made it a priority to change that. Whether it was discussing the first day of school and lunches, or issues facing students of color, Dr. Helton made everyone feel like they had a seat at the table, and they are valued in that conversation. I was recently asked to identify a person that I saw as a leader. I automatically knew who I would write about. I wrote about Dr. Scott Helton. I wrote about how he was a champion for what was right. Dr. Helton understood that racism had no place in District 88. So he did everything he could to promote anti-racism. This included resources for not only students, but staff and parents as well. People like Dr. Scott Helton were put on this planet to light up the world. From Dr. Helton, students could glean so much. I remember my first Illinois State Board of Education meeting. I remember when I said which school and district I was from, people would automatically say, "You're one of Helton's students." I would proudly say yes. They didn't personally know me, but they knew Dr. Helton, and that was good enough. His legacy is deeply implemented in every student that he has come into contact with. His legacy is ingrained in every staff member he has had conversations with. His legacy is embedded in District 88 forever. I am extremely grateful, proud, and honored to say I got to know the great Dr. Scott Helton. Thank you.
To work with Scott during his tenure here in DuPage County. But my message is directly to Scott. Scott, I want to thank you. Scott, thank you for always wanting more, always doing more, always being more. And not just for your staff and your students and your community, but really on behalf of public education, I am thanking you. You wanted all of us and all of your students to want more for themselves, and for your educators to want more for their students as well. And Scott, you were very successful at doing that. And I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for wanting all of us to want more. And Scott, I don't think I know of any other educator that I have ever come across that I think has done more than you have on behalf of the students you served and your staff and your community and public education. You never waited for ISB or legislators to tell you what to do. You were always one step ahead, always doing, always moving, always growing a better tomorrow for your students. Scott, I want to tell you, you did good. Thank you. And Scott, you educated and enlightened, nurtured, influenced, and energized all of us who came in contact with you, especially our school leaders. But your mere presence and leading by example, we all wanted to be better because of you. And as you look down on us, I want you to know your legacy for me is helping me to become a better person. And I also know, too, for your sons, you've left a wonderful legacy, probably the greatest legacy any parent can leave, and that is leaving great children to carry on, wanting more, doing more, and being more, not just for themselves, but for all that they can influence. Scott, you did good. Scott, thank you. God bless.
Scott Helton's impact on the education community will be felt for years to come. His legacy will live on in District 88, and most importantly, in the hearts of each and every student and educator whose life he touched. Thank you for joining us tonight to honor a great man, a humble servant leader who was larger than life and taken from us far too soon. We ask that you please partner with us as we move forward to carry on his legacy of passionate, caring, courageous leadership and service on behalf of the students of District 88. Thank you.